And in doing so, it means that you are welcome to everything, from the tops of the trees to the roots of the earth. It also means that you join with us to honour the spirits of our ancestors who have looked after this land for thousands and thousands of years. My language is the Woiwurrung, Waminjakal Waranji Balak Yemen Kuntibek. You are most welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people.
Welcome. Here we are on the first Sunday of February for the people of the Avenue. This is the return after the summer break, and really great to be back together and to be hearing stories of adventures and misadventures and all the rest of it. For the people of Hartwell, this is a move, I guess, into a new beginning, a new existence, a new life. Hartwell people have been gathering during January for Taizé services, but here we are together for the first time. Well, not really for the first time, because our people have worshipped together over many years in different ways, but for the first time in this new expression of who we are becoming. So it's delightful to welcome you here for worship this morning. There are it seems to me there are several streams that we're bringing together this morning. It intentionally had that welcome from Auntie Joy Murphy because not having worshipped in this place during January, we missed last weekend and we missed the weekend before, so last weekend being Australia Day and the weekend before, which was Aboriginal Sunday. And so I thought it would be good for us as we begin our year to be conscious and to be intentionally conscious of the original inhabitants of the land upon which we gather, and to recognise that their journey has been a difficult journey over many thousands of years, and that particularly in recent history there has been some injustice and even some abuse. And for us, as we begin a new expression of our life, it's probably good for us to have awareness of that. And I guess the other stream that I was conscious of is the summer of bushfires that we have endured. And those two streams seem to come together because one of the things that the bushfire season has said to me, it's reminded me of our mismanagement of the land. And so we remember the Indigenous people who managed this land effectively for thousands of years and acknowledge the gap between their management and our mismanagement. And maybe there are things we can learn together in that. And maybe, and then of course the third stream is the coming together of two congregations, Hartwell Church of Christ and the Avenue Church of Christ, imagining that we're forming something new. And imagining that we're becoming something different. Not sure what that looks like or what that might be, but with a sense that there is something more for us to become. And for us to carry those awarenesses of our past histories and the stories of this place into that awareness of who we are becoming, I think will be important. We're going to hear a bit more about those stories as we share together this morning. But it really is good to be able to welcome the people from Hartwell and the people from the Avenue together for worship. The word confluence is the word that is used to name the point at which two rivers join. I don't know whether you've been to where the Darling joins the Murray. I haven't been there recently, and I suspect it's nothing like it used to be. I've seen pictures of the Darling, which is basically just a string of ponds rather than a river. But when I was last at that confluence, there was it's not just, it's not a passive process, it's an active process as these two rivers join together. And there's turbulence and there's all sorts of, but there's this motion forward, there's this, and the motion of the two coming together seems to accelerate the motion, seems to accelerate the movement of the water. And I guess that word came to me as we were reflecting on what we might do today. It's a confluence of two streams bringing together something that will create energy and life and vitality, probably beyond that which we imagine right at this moment. That's our hope, that's our expectation. And today we will celebrate that in a number of different ways. So again, welcome, it's great to have you with us. You'll see this symbolic C on the floor here. If you haven't recognised that it's a C, well, from now on, you know that that's what it is. And there's lots of boats on the sea, and a bit later in the service, Sarah is going to talk to us about those boats. And there's some rocks, because we know that not everything is smooth sailing, and there's little ripples along the way, but there's also some candles, because we know that there will be many points of light along the way also. So, yeah, let your imaginations run wild with that. But just remember, it is the sea, not just a piece of blue cloth randomly placed on the floor. Sarah is going to come and light our Christ candle. One of the traditions, I guess, of the Avenue, come Sarah, one of the traditions of the Avenue is that at the start of every service we light a Christ candle, and it's really good to have one of the key leaders from Hartwell lighting our Christ candle for the first time in 2020, after which David and Jem and Andrew will lead us in our first song. Thanks, Sarah.
Well, our first song this morning is the Pentecost Prayer, and I'd like to invite you all to stand for those of you who are able.
Where's the mascot?
Thank you.
musos haven't lost their touch over the summer break. Great playing there, guys. And really worth acknowledging, I think, that since we last met, Jem has received his VCE results. He did very well. He's been accepted into music at Melbourne University. And he has won a scholarship to Trinity College at Melbourne University. And the best news of all, which we were a little anxious about, is that his scholarship at Trinity College won't preclude him from being here on Sunday morning. There's more good news though, because next week, possibly next week, Hartwell have, of course, their own musicians, and Michael plays the clarinet, and Chris plays the flute, and they'll be up here next Sunday as well. What could be better? We're going to have fun. The banner behind me has made its journey from Highfield Road to the Avenue just this morning. And that banner is a banner that sort of represents, if you like, the life and culture of the Hartwell Church of Christ. It carries words that were the mission statement of the Hartwell Church of Christ. And in one of those weird coincidences or confluences, perhaps, we discovered that one of the lectionary readings for this morning, so one of the readings set down in the common lectionary that's used all over the world, the Old Testament reading for this morning is Micah 6, 1-8, from which those words were taken. So it seemed really appropriate that that would be our reading for this morning. And Carolyn is going to come and read it for us. Thanks, Carolyn.
Hear what the Lord says. Rise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, the controversy of the Lord, and you enduring foundations of the earth. For the Lord has a controversy with his people, and he will contend with Israel. O my people, what have I done to you? What have I wearied you? Answer me. For I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and redeemed you from the house of slavery, and I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now what King Balak of Moab devised, what Balaam, son of Beor, answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the saving acts of the Lord. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves year-old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens and thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God?
Well, we wanted to just share a little bit with you this morning about the, I guess, the story that has led us to this point, the journey that has brought us here. And there have been a number of people from both congregations who've been engaged in conversation over the last little while that has created the possibility of this morning. And I thought it would be really good for us to have a chat to at least a few of those people. So I'd like to introduce you to Rosemary and Sarah. Sarah, you've already met. Rosemary and Sarah, would you like to come and join us at the front here? So Rosemary and Sarah are two of the key leaders from the Hartwell congregation. And I'd also like to invite Carolyn and Cole to come and join us out the front here, two of the key leaders from the Avenue congregation. So we're just going to have a bit of a chat, but we might even make reference, because there have been other people involved in the conversation along the way as well, so we might even make reference to some of them as we go. We've been sort of talking about this for some months now, about what the future might hold for us. And there have been a range of conversations about a range of different topics and themes and that sort of thing. I just thought it'd be really good to get a bit of a feel for the flavour of those conversations. So, Rosemary, seeing as how you've got the microphone, well, how have you experienced those conversations? Like, how have you felt about it when you've left one and gone home and sat there and thought, what did you think about it?
I've found all the conversations very life-giving. The similarities between our congregations, the way we think about things, our aims. The first time Sarah and I came, we were a bit sceptical, and we were just blown away by the reception we got from Danny and David. And it's just, every time we meet, it's just more things that are similar, and we can see the synergies between the two congregations. We bring different things to the table, but yeah, it's been very life-giving.
What about you, Carolyn? How have you experienced the process, the conversations?
I think the thing that struck me was that we were both very open. We were all very open in terms of our expectations going forward. And as Rosemary said, very similar in the directions that we wanted to head. So it seemed to be a really good fit.
Sarah, we both of those groups bring their own histories and stories and cultures and that sort of thing. In your experience of the Hartwell Church of Christ, what's one thing that stands out for you? One significant moment or one significant memory or something that you think, this was a good moment for me?
We had a 98th birthday last year, and I think that was an amazing time of people who had been part of the congregation years and years ago came. We had something like 90 people there. We're actually a small worshipping body of about 16 people. So to get 90 people to come to our birthday party, I think it's pretty significant. And it says something about the place that that community has in people's hearts that lasts. Some people came who'd been there at Sunday school, and they reconnected, and you could see them looking across the room at each other and sort of sharing jokes and stuff like that at long distance and long distance over time, which was very beautiful.
Great, thank you. Cole, what about you in the story of the Avenue? What's something that stands out in?
Yeah, I guess on a personal note, I started coming here with my family 25 years ago now, and I think we started attending around sort of May, June, and then the AGM came up in early November, and Tim Adam was our chair back then, and so I'd only been there a few months, and I'd grown up in the Anglican Church and been to some fairly sort of testy AGMs over the years, and so I was sort of wondering what the Avenue was going to be like, and so we turn up, and it's all sort of fairly laid back and informal, and which is really lovely. And then it gets to the voting bit, and thinking, oh, I wonder how this is going to go. And then Tim asked me to count the votes, and I've only been there a few months, so here I am counting the votes, and it was just a lovely gesture, I suppose, of and I think I counted them correctly, Tim. But it was just a lovely gesture, and to me it communicated, I guess, the acceptance that this community has, the inclusiveness of this community, and it certainly made me feel that. So yeah.
So hang on to the microphone, because that's a really good segue into. I'm going to get each of you to comment on this. What is something from the life, in your case of the Avenue, or in your cases of the Hartwell, something from the life of the Avenue that you would like to bring into the new entity that's emerging, a new thing that's growing out of this? What's something that you think, we want to take this with us?
Yeah, I guess as I was thinking about this morning and our mission statements and vision statements, and I think there's probably three words that stand out. So I'm sorry if I'm pinching anyone else's word, but one's spirituality. So I think we're both spiritual communities. One's well-being. We place a strong and growing emphasis on our personal well-being, and the other one's creativity. And I think that Hartwell have got some really good stuff happening in that space, and we've been talking about creativity as well, and we've got a lot of creative people in our community too. So there are probably three words that I think about as I think about moving forward.
Thanks, Colin. Carol, what about you?
Probably the one word that I think embodies the Avenue community, and I'm sure from what I hear in my experience, Hartwell as well, and the combined community going forward, that word would be care. So care and concern for each other, for our community, the broader community, and our world. Yeah.
Great.
I want to second what Carolyn said. This week in The Guardian, there was an article about how there's been an emphasis on self-care for many years in various organisations. And they then talked about how it's most important now that our country's burning, that the world's burning, to go forth with community care. That there's a default thing that really impinges on all of us, that we should be thinking about the spiritual and community care of the souls of people who aren't necessarily here, but our society as a whole, the world as a whole. So I think that we have that. Danny mentioned that in one of the early conversations, and it's something that's been in my heart for a long time. And it was one of those little points at which it went, ding, yes, we're meant to be.
Yeah, at Hartwell, we identified one of our strengths was our hospitality, our openness to the other, to inviting people in and providing for them. And I hope we bring that with us. And also the creativity, which, like the boats, like our banner, which was created by the community, many people providing letters for it. And I hope we're able to bring that as well.
Excellent, excellent. Before we go into what will be a final question, your use of the word community care and your emphasis on care jogged my memory that I'd really like to say welcome to Joe Anthony this morning. Joe is the CareWorks Director from Churches of Christ in Victoria and Tasmania, and as some of you are aware, we've had a CareWorks grant this year, or last year and this year. So Joe, welcome. We're really delighted to have you with us this morning. And it also reminds me to pass on the greetings of Michael Vandery. Michael sent an email saying Michael is the communities leader with Churches of Christ in Victoria and Tasmania, and he sent an email saying that he was unable to be here this morning, but wanted to send his greetings to us as we gather for the first time together. So I sort of neglected to do that at the start of the service. Thanks for reminding me. So as we embark on this journey together, what are some of your dreams and aspirations? Now, I know we don't have a lot of time to sort of go into a lot of detail, but what are you hoping might emerge? You know what? Because there's no point doing it if there's nothing sort of, we don't have that sense of there's a reason for this. We're going to do something together. What is it? What are the dreams and aspirations that you four have as we begin this journey together? Thanks, Rosemary.
I dream that we'll be more open to the community, to gather our local communities here, around here and down at Highfield Road into our sphere. Not necessarily coming along to a Sunday service, but to being engaged in some way within our works.
For a long time, I've dreamt about having a space where people could come to learn to be spiritual. So I think a lot of people use that word but don't really know how to use it, and what it is to practice that, to see what creativity is in the sense of a spiritual activity, not in the sense of merely making a piece of artwork, but making artwork that's got a soul in it and is some sort of expression of the soul of the person who's making it as well. And I had another one. And it's gone. I'm sorry, that's a bit of an anime moment of me.
We'll come back to you if you think of it.
My hope is that we become a cohesive group very quickly, and I think I sort of feel that already, really, that's almost happened, through our relationship over recent times. But also, I would hope the other word that's in my mind is diversity, that we can welcome people of diverse backgrounds and who are outside our community and make them feel very much part of this group as well.
I guess picking up Carolyn's hope about diversity and bringing in the sort of spirituality connection, but I'm really interested in us as a community becoming more engaged with, First Peoples, and in particular for us, it's our Indigenous people, and so I really appreciated how we started our gathering this morning, and particularly, as the country thinks about better engagement with our Indigenous people and treaties and all that sort of stuff, I think we've got an opportunity to help with the conversation, and also to, a bit like you were saying before, David, to realise the wisdom that exists in cultures that are that old, whether it's around land care or well-being or spirituality, and I just think we've got a lot to learn from those people that have been here for a very long time.
Excellent. Don't go, stay there. I'm going to take the microphone from you and just ask a couple other people for a comment. But after that, Julie is going to come and lead us in a blessing, and I just think it would be really good, symbolically, to have you stay here while we do that. So, a couple of the other people have been engaged in the conversation, and they're sitting in the same row, so it just seemed really convenient. Are Danny from the Avenue and Barb from Hartwell. Barb, if I would ask you what your dreams and aspirations for this new emerging entity are, what would you say in no more than 10 words?
That we have spiritual fun together.
Oh, right.
I can't believe it's 10 words. For me, I guess I think there's an opportunity for us as a group of people to find a sense of connection together, but also to find a way of engaging with the broader community around this whole concept of spirituality in a way that the church has sadly lost in my lifetime, and so whereas when I was a kid, the church was an important part of this, but in the broader community it's not anymore. And my hope might be we find a pathway back there somehow together.
Yep. Thank you both very much. It's going to be an exciting journey, isn't it? Are you excited? Yeah. I'm excited. Julie, would you like to come and lead us in a blessing? Thank you.
That's great. God of love, we come together this morning as two communities of faith, now joined together as one. We give thanks for the way in which we have been brought together by our common belief in you, by our desire to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you, our God. May this continue to be the way we live as your people. God of journey, as we set sail as your community, help us to remember that you are in the boat with us, that you are our guide and rudder. May our sails be filled with the breath of your Spirit, the fruit of which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. May these fruits be evident in our interactions with one another as a community and in our interactions with the broader community with whom we seek to share your love. God of hope, thank you for living and loving in us and through us. As we move forward as your people, may all that we do flow from our deep connection with you and all beings. Give us courage as we set sail into the unknown, and help us to trust that we are embraced and held by you, the God of grace and love. Amen.
Thank you all very much. Sarah, you can stay because you're going to reveal to us the mysteries of the sea. Thank you.
Well, is this on? This is a little journey in and of itself. We were talking about how we might sculpt this service in terms of showing two rivers, two bodies of water joining together, the confluence of which David has spoken. And I had been given, in a little thing that I run at Hartwell called Soul Space, about 18 months ago, a newspaper clipping by one of the people who attend. And it was a woman who'd done a big body of work about refugees, and she had made a fabric floor, and she had folded 100 or so, or maybe more, paper boats, all the same colour, to represent the people coming in their boats, journeying here, and hopefully her protest that they weren't allowed to actually be on the land because they were perpetually stopped on the water. I kept that as a beautiful image, and it came to mind when we were talking about this. So I said, what about boats, if we make boats? If we make boats. And of course, I then discovered that it's not so easy to make a small origami boat. My son, Chris, who plays the flute, has loved origami since he was a kid. And I bought him an encyclopedic folding guide to origami when he was about 13 or something like that. He dragged it out for me, and I found this pattern in the back and started folding. And I think the fastest I got to fold on was about 10 minutes. There's a lot of folding. And halfway through, I said to Chris, there's no way I can teach somebody to do this in the time that there is in the service. We'll have to make the boats for them. So we decided we'd make the boats for them. And the idea was always to make it invitational, nothing prescriptive or anything like that, that you come and take a boat that talks to you, and that you can write on its sail, if it has one, or you might like to write something bigger inside the sail, and I've got extra sails if you want to have one that's put on subsequently with a bigger message in it, or you just don't want people to see what you've written. And I would like, but again, it's invitational only and not prescriptive, that you might put them all back here and let them sail a little longer after that. And then at the end of the service, we might all take one each to go home with us. Not necessarily the one that was yours that you did. So that there's a collaborative element in what we do. There's a reflective practice of not being attached to what we make as well. The thing that speaks to us first is often not the thing that's really meant for us, and it gives us a chance to look at that. So how does that sound? I have pens and sails. So in your own time, would you like to come out and take a boat? And maybe think of a word or a phrase or something to write.
Oh yeah, you're right. So I know a different song by that name. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I want to know how you get upgraded in my accommodation.
You got a bit of work. Yeah, that wasn't easy. A month
And he decided not to go to the we weren't sure what time they were coming in, then they were rain. I jumped into the rain. And how we had changed. And then the rain. So she said,
So which way yeah, plenty of oh, they're just flying there you go. Like the and how do they work together? Oh, okay. Come on,
Thank you all so much for joining in. If you'd like to launch your vessels, that would be fun. And we're going to move into our next segment. Thank you.
Well done, everyone. That's great, and it's really it's a significant symbol of the journey we're beginning together. And I can see words like joy and peace and love and hope and other writing I can't read from here. And we hope that those qualities will all be part of the emerging life of what it is we're creating. You may have those words still sitting in your minds and your hearts, and you may have seen some other words as you brought your boat forward that have resonated with you as well. Why don't we just take just a brief moment or two to sit in silence. I'm going to suggest you take a couple of deep breaths to start with. Just relax and take a couple of deep breaths and let those words sit in your minds and your hearts as we reflect on what it means for us to begin this journey together. And it's our prayer that we will be open to the promptings of the Spirit of the Creator God as we journey together. One of the songs that came to mind as we were preparing for this morning is the song, it's called the Galilee Song, a song that starts deep within my heart, which is familiar to the Hartlepool people. To the Avenue people, not so much. So we've pressed Meryl into service this morning. She's going to join David and the Muses as they lead us in this song, the Galilee Song.
Thanks, David. I think the first line of the chorus talks about leaving our boats behind. So as we leave that segment behind, we'll move on to the song. And maybe Jen might just help the Surrey people to understand the melody by just playing out the melody for us.
Whispering to me.
Good morning. All who wish to share are welcome at this, the Lord's table. I've had today's reading rolling around in my brain all week. The confluence of it being the lectionary was just amazing. And that last part of this so well known, that mission statement that's hung up at Hartwell. But the words that come just before it are not so commonly said. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams and tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. This last part is something that God has told humans again and again and again, that there is nothing that we can do of ourselves, we can make or achieve, that can make us right with God. What makes us righteous is how we love and how we treat each other. In Jesus, we had the perfect pattern to follow, to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. But we are really slow learners, and we need constant reminding. So here we share these simple elements We're reminded again that God loves us not because we can move mountains or create perfect art, but simply because we are. And in response to that love, we are called to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. On the night before he died for us, Jesus was at the table with his friends. He took the bread, he gave thanks and broke it, and gave it to them and said, "Take, eat. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." As supper was ending, Jesus took the cup. Again, he gave thanks and gave it to them and said, "Drink this, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for you and for all for the forgiveness of sins. Whenever you drink it, remember me." Let us pray. Merciful God, we gather around your table to affirm our desire to walk on your path, to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with you. We give thanks for these emblems that speak of your infinite grace, for this juice that represents your spilt blood and the bread that recalls your broken body. As we take these simple foods, strengthen our faith and determination to live your way. Amen. I ask you to hold your cups and we will drink together as a community. Let us do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with our God. Now's our opportunity to bring our offerings to God. Let us pray. Lord, we offer these gifts to you with thankful hearts and in joyous praise. We give not only our money, but our lives, our talents and resources. May this offering extend the work of your kingdom in your church, your community, and into the beautiful world which you have made. Amen.
Well, it's lovely to have a full church this morning, and just like to reiterate David's welcome to everybody who's here. Just a couple of community announcements. I'm sure there's lots of news we are all going to catch up on during the morning tea, but there is a board meeting tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. And that's not our usual time, but we are having a special board meeting tomorrow at 8 p.m. for the Avenue years. Connect is not going to be this Wednesday. The next Connect evening, which occurs every second Wednesday at 7:15, will be the 19th of February. So all this will be in the newsletter coming out on Thursday, but don't come on Wednesday because there won't be any Connect until the 19th. Glass Half Full is on the 16th of February. That's Sunday evening at our house, David and I, in Hawthorn. Again, details will be in the newsletter. And the way our Glass Half Full works, if you haven't been, is we gather together in a home and we get takeaway to make it nice and easy. We usually have pizza or something like that. And everyone brings something sweet to share afterwards and whatever they would like to drink. And everybody is welcome.
And $10.
$10 to cover the food. So that will be at our house, and again, details will be in the friendly word. If you are coming, it's probably easiest if you want a handrail to come through the carport and up the stairs that way, because there are handrails at the back of the house. I just wanted to mention a big thank you to everybody who contributed to the hampers, the Christmas hampers that we collected for Roz and Amber, and also the men, Majid and Mohammed at Warrigal Road. They were so excited and so thrilled to receive those hampers. So thank you to everyone who contributed. And one final thing, we are going to send off the Christmas bowl envelopes that we've received. I'll leave some here on the table if you would still like to contribute. It's not too late. And you can either take these and send them in yourself or leave them here and we'll send them in on your behalf. Are there any other notices or important news that we should mention now? Good, thanks David.
Okay, so we're in the home straight now, David. So let's stand again for those who are able to stand, and let's sing the song "I the Lord Which You See Inscribed."
Just before David leads us in the Sun benediction, that is, again, something we do each week here at the Avenue, let me say again thank you for being here this morning. It's been a great start to what will be an exciting journey, and the journey continues over morning tea in the hall. So please make your way through the double doors there out to the hall and share in a sumptuous morning tea that's been prepared for us. So be good to catch up out there. May our footsteps on this ancient land remind us of creation and connectedness. May the gum tree from its roots to its branches remind us to dig deep and reach high in our quest for justice. May the eagle who soars in the sky remind us of the power in our call to love. May the expanse of the lands and the seas, the sky and the stars, remind us of the enormity of God's love for all people. May the Holy Three, Creator, Sustainer, Redeemer, remind us of true community. And may the grace, mercy, and peace of the great Creator Spirit be with us always. Amen.
May the Lord rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rain falls soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. May God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Mike Roberts was online this morning. Oh, is he? Oh, yeah. Loading Yeah, we got a tree and a root to do, but I mean, well, that's it.